The Falcon de Lacy Python is a classic design that has survived the centuries. The first vessel was constructed in 2700 by Watt and Brittany Ship Constructions, but with that company demise and after various mergers and acquisitions, the ship design is now owned by Falcon and de Lacy. Those of you more elderly and more experienced, shall we say, commanders will recognise the old Python from the original 1984 Elite game on the BBC, ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, etc, etc. The list indeed does go on. But whereas in those early iterations of the game you were only bound to a Cobra Mark III, now with Elite Dangerous and some of its other games you could now fly one. But what makes it fantastic? What makes it good? What gives it the right to hold the badge multi-role space superiority? A good all-rounder. Well, in this video we're going to find out and basically try and tease out why Frontier have decided to make a Python Mark II, which has had the community a bit of a buzz. The Python is a medium-sized ship that lands on a medium-sized pad. It's got a good cargo capacity, it's got great potential for combat, great potential for exploration, although perhaps somewhat limited compared to some of its competitors, such as the Crate Mark II, Crate Phantom, that sort of thing, but also has that ability to hold quite decent trade and cargo space. All that being said, however, I think you can fit everything you really need into a Python. It's been flagged as being a mini Anaconda. Now that I think is only basically by the spearhead shape that the Python has. Certainly it was the ship that I bombed around in when I started playing Elite Dangerous back in 2014. That was my aspiration ship, whereas the Anaconda was way beyond my aspirations as the game was not as accessible to the highest ships as it is today for fledgling commanders. With the introduction of the new Python Mark II, we can see new iterations of ships coming into the game. And whereas we have seen this before with the Viper Mark III and the Cobra Mark III being iterated into a Viper Mark IV and Cobra Mark IV for some lucky commanders who had the multi-season pass way back in the day, this is the first ship, really, that we've seen that is going to get a new variant. Now what do I mean by that? Yes, we've seen the Diamondback Explorer have a Diamondback Scout. Okay, fair enough. We've seen the Asp Explorer having the Asp Scout. But this is a Mark II of a vessel. But what makes the Python so fantastic? The current Python, the Python Mark I that we have in game at the moment, has 3 large hardpoints and 2 medium hardpoints. This is fantastic, this is great. This is a great configuration of a ship so far that is good for hunting pirates, going bounty hunting, zipping in and out of combat zones, even player versus player. And, as we've recently seen, is pretty good AX ship against the Thargoids. Versatility here does seem to be the name of the game, and whereas the Python doesn't really spring to the top of your list, or to the top of mind of being a top tier combat ship, which it isn't, the versatility of the Python across many combat roles does make it a bit of a stalwart in ship. It isn't the best combat ship in the game. That goes without saying. Dedicated combat ships like the Federal Gunship, like the Crate Mark II, will often surpass it in raw firepower and, more than likely, agility. This is the things that we need to see enhanced with the Python Mark II when it comes out. The cost of the Python, as it's a medium-sized ship and comes with, a fairly hefty price tag if you're a new commander, the insurance on that is obviously, I think, comparable. I would not think twice about taking a Python into combat and then having to sit down worrying about the rebuy costs. So what are we saying about the Python in regards to combat? It's a solid choice for, I think, an experienced to moderate commander, I would say. Those players that do value their versatility and a balanced approach will like the Python for this. Its ability to be adapted to different combat styles and scenarios, and its potential to be upgraded, makes it a very popular pick. However, it's important to remember that this ship in its current configuration as a Mark 1 has its limitations compared to those dedicated combat ships, and does have a higher financial risk, say, to a Cobra Mark 3. Once again, I find myself saying that the Elite Dangerous Python isn't necessarily the best ship for space exploration, but can be a good choice depending on your priorities and playstyle. For the pros, let's think of this. It's got a decent jump range, but while not the best, and we've talked about versatility, it does fall short of the jump ranges like the Asp Explorer, where they typically excel here, that and the DBX. The Python can achieve a respectable jump range with proper outfitting and engineering, allowing you to cover decent distances of around 40 to 42 light years with the correct engineering. This versatility for multi-role makes it an unlikely choice for an exploration ship. However, it doesn't say it can't do it. The Python retains some of those combat and trading capabilities as well. This is what we were talking about as it being multi-role. So if you're out and you're exploring and you have to go and, I don't know, pick up some tritium for your fleet carrier, or go and mine some materials at the crystal shard sites, or just go and make a little bit of money to top up the coffers if you're out in the black and you come across a station, then this could be the ship for you. If you want to go mining as well, I think it's typically a decent ship for mining. Very low impact on cost as opposed to some of the bigger ships, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. As for internal compartments, it does have enough space for essential exploration modules like the scanners and the fuel scoops and repair limpets and an AFM, plus room for some additional modules, perhaps say an SRV bay as well. For its durability, as it's got its larger size and decent shields, it is more resilient than dedicated exploring ships, so that'll list for the commander who wants to, I don't know, survive those unexpected encounters, or perhaps use the neutron superhighway, which can be quite hard on the hull of a ship. If you look at the cons in regards to the Python and exploration, we're looking at fuel efficient. It's not really as fuel efficient as dedicated exploration ships, which require more frequent scooping. So you may want to fit in one of those nice big cargo bays an additional fuel bay. Power management requires careful balancing, as it does with all ships, but cost, it is more expensive than the dedicated explorer ships in the DBX and the Asp Explorer. The cockpit really isn't as panoramic as some of the exploration ships, which can be a little bit less immersive when it comes to sightseeing, but then again, you always have that external camera. The Python is capable as an explorer, especially for players who value flexibility, shall we say, and it offers security with its higher hull points. However, if it's pure jump range and fuel efficiency, and these are your priorities, get from A to B quick, or to go out into the black and find some decent things to go and have a good nose about, then you really should be looking at an Asp Explorer or a Diamondback Explorer, or perhaps even a really tricked up Anaconda. Ultimately, the best ship for you depends on your personal preference in regards to exploration and what your exploration goals are. This is an area, mining, where I think this ship really does excel. Whereas the other aspects of things can be, I don't know, versatility, flexibility, mining I think is key. As it's multi-purpose, unlike many dedicated ships you could tick out for mining, the Python excels at both laser mining and core mining. You can easily switch between the two with the hardpoint loadout that you have, without having to go back and refit a ship. You can make decent money with the Python. The cargo capacity, with its base cargo capacity of 192 tons, means the Python can hold significant amount of mined materials, allowing for longer and more profitable mining runs, especially for those sneaky community goals that have you mining loads of ore. The hardpoints, like we mentioned, with its large hardpoints, its medium hardpoints as well, provide ample space for equipping mining lasers, abrasion blasters and the seismic charge launchers as well, and other essential mining tools in the utility slots as well. If you look at performance, it's quite manoeuvrable. You've got to trick up those thrusters, do a little bit of engineering there. While dedicated mining ships, you know, are typically larger, the Python still sits in that medium ship slot, which is quite good. It offers decent manoeuvrability and makes it easy to navigate the asteroid fields of Elite Dangerous. The jump range is decent, let's face it. Typically at a base 25 to 30, but you can trick that up to close to 40 with a little bit of engineering, so you can reach those valuable mining hotspots in systems without having to do refueling and scooping. Of course, when mining, defense is also paramount. There's always going to be some cheeky monkey who's going to be out there who is going to try and take all your material off you. A lot of mining ships are typically not shielded. They go for a little bit of armour. It's all about capacity on what they can hold. Miners are very quintessentially not armed because of their mining loadouts. They might have one or two offensive weapons, perhaps doing a bit of power play, which we know is going to be changing post update 19. You can get a weaponized mining laser, but that's hardly going to let you take out an anaconda. Look out for those pirates is what I'm saying. But, you know, the health points, they'll help with that. The additional benefits are the medium landing pad that the Python can actually land on, which means, you know, some of the bigger ships are cut out from getting some of the best prices at Elite Dangerous outposts. The upgrade potential of the Python is great in regards for mining, has a good potential for engineering. We've also mentioned the power play and the weaponized beam laser or mining laser, whatever it is, the mining lance, but also, and I say also, it's worth noting that the Python does have a few drawbacks. Cost, its fuel consumption, and it's a bit of a big unit. That medium ship, yeah, okay, you know, pirates are going to come right at you, but are you going to have the thrust and the tricked out engines to get you out of trouble? All this comes down to decent engineering. Trade. Perhaps one of the most important aspects of Elite Dangerous. And the Python excels here, and for good reason. The cargo capacity. While not the absolute largest cargo hold in the Elite Dangerous galaxy, the Python does boast a respectable 296 tons of cargo space when fully tricked out, allowing you to haul significant quantities of goods without sacrificing manoeuvrability. You may have to sacrifice your shields for that though, as well. This capacity does put it ahead of smaller trading ships like the Cobra Mark III and the Asp Scout. Not that you'd really use an Asp Scout for trading, but it does fall short of coming up to the same levels as dedicated ships as the Type 9, obviously, and also Type 7. The versatility, again, beyond cargo, the Python offers that range of being more than just a trading vessel, because you can trick it out with weapons. So if someone does try to take your Void Opals off you, or your Lavian Brandy, you can turn around and at least give them a bloody nose as you boost past them. Which takes me on nicely to jump range. With proper engineering, you can achieve a decent jump range that does exceed the typical average of 30 light years, and we've spoken about this already in this video. It is crucial to get a good engineered FSD. The internal compartments in regards to the Python provide a good number of internal compartments, giving you that flexibility to outfit the ship for whatever need you want. I mean, you may need to have a cargo scoop, cargo scanners, docking computer, but let's face it, you won't need a docking computer for something the size of a Python. It's nimble enough to get in through the eye of the Oculus without crashing into the sides. Although I've done that on several occasions. Unlike the larger cargo ships, the Python is nimble enough and has got good manoeuvrability in comparison. It's also cheaper as well against the dedicated ships like the Type 9. The Python is relatively affordable in comparison for it. However, it is important to consider some potential drawbacks. While respectable, the 296 tons might not be enough for players aiming for maximum profits. For those seeking the absolute largest holds, the Type 9 or the Anaconda, which are larger ships, might be for you. But this sits perfectly if you want to go back and forth for outposts. You've got the added bonus of the combat capability, but if you're maxing out the cargo, you're going to have to forgo your shields. And it's not the most economic on the fuel of ships, the old Python. So overall, really, the Python's balance of cargo capacity, versatility, affordability and manoeuvrability makes it a really compelling choice, I think, for a little bit of trade. The Elite Dangerous Python Mark 1 has got several general upgrades that every commander when flying around has got to have. The first one, the absolute first one, is going to be the FSD, increased jump range through Felicity Farsia's increased range mod for the frameshift drive is almost universally valuable, saving time on travel and any activity. I would also tend to go for deep charge as the experimental effect. As for your power plant as well, depending on the loadout, either low emissions or overcharged. Sounds a bit, conflicting. Low emissions if you want to be sneaky and be very cautious of the heat. Overcharged if you just want more power. Shields and shield boosters. 5-wheeled shields with resistance augmented boosters from the Zeta Oronis McGinn offer strong protection. Now, that was general upgrades. What about combat? Dirty drives. Palin's G5 dirty drives significantly enhance acceleration, boosting speed and maneuverability. Weapons, of course, depending on what you're really throwing out there. Multi-cannons. A lot of people use the multi-cannons, right? Brood Tarquin, corrosive shell or high yield shell. Let's think about hull reinforcements as well. Increased integrity. And that improves increased survivability. For trading, your cargo capacity really, if you upgrade your hull, then you can perhaps do without the shield generator, increasing your cargo capacity as well. Shield boosters, if you are running shields, will help you survive if you're being attacked by pirates. But for exploration, increased FSD range, as we've already mentioned, fuel scoop efficiency as well, and also scanner range. That could also help. Now this is just a starting point and everyone's going to have their own builds and typical own builds for a Python. This has been a quick look and a quick review of the Python as how it stands today. What are its best roles? We know it's a multi-superiority role, that goes without saying, and as the Python Mark II is going to start coming into Elite Dangerous, what can we expect from that? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. I've been Ricardo, thanks very much for watching and I'll see you soon.